Hello to those listening. This is an orator with the freest of speech. And for the first video of 2017, I would like to talk about why men's rights activists really can't win. Now, you may say, why would I believe this? Because if you see most of the things I do, I am anti-feminist and in support of men's rights because I'm in support of equality. And as anybody would know, equality doesn't have criteria attached to it. The thing is, I spend a lot of time talking to many different women from many different backgrounds, and mostly in person and in public areas, just conversationally. And the thing about this is, whereas you may see anti feminists and all these other people throw up statistics saying that a small portion of the country identify themselves as feminists, it's irrelevant. And the thing that makes it irrelevant is women who don't call themselves feminists support what feminists do. They just don't like the label. And they don't like the label because the more extreme elements of the movement made it bad. But the thing about this is, either feminists are incredibly tactically great, or they're just some of the luckiest people on the planet. Because what we have here is, even though people reject feminism because of the extremes, it doesn't stop them from supporting it. Whereas anti-fems and them go after, well, anti-feminists may go directly after a feminist and the things that they talk about and theorize, whereas in men's rights activists may go against the laws and say these laws need to change. When people see this dynamic, they don't support feminism, even though you see feminists trying to bolster the label. But they not going to pay attention to men's rights activists because men's rights activists are talking about things that will negatively affect women, but at the same time, even though it will positively affect men because men are more subservient to the desires of women, they'll ignore it. And in 2017, it's not going to change. And I'll give a perfect example of what I mean by it won't change. In the United States, there is a law called the Violence Against Women Act. And it is a law that pays for things like female shelters and female clinics and a bunch of other things that are directly women oriented, right? I know they say things like children, but I can tell you right now from personal experience that's bullshit. Just to here, to tell a story, it's very simple. When I was a kid, maybe around 12, had a house fire, house burned down around Christmas. My mother took me, my younger brother, to the closest shelter that she could find because at that point we kind of had nowhere to go. And when we went to that place, the people there looked at her and told her, my 6-year-old brother and her can stay, but I have to go somewhere else. This facility, which I know is being funded by state and federal government to help people in their time of need, told my mother, you can stay here, but your 12-year-old son has to go someplace else. So when these people talk about women and children, it's bullshit. Because in that instant, my mother, instead of just blowing her top, which she really wanted to do, took me and my brother, and then we went across town to some other place that would accept all three of us. Now that story ties in to the Violence Against Women Act and all the charitable things that it gives to these women-only shelters. But the thing about this is, according to our federal laws, discrimination based upon sex, race, gender, these are illegal. But the federal government has absolutely no problem making a law that is 100% sexist. It is biased against men. It discriminates on gender. And that right there, in a nutshell, is why I said feminists are either tactically smart or the luckiest bastards there are. Because when you have the federal government make a law that says you can't discriminate, then they turn around and make a law that specifically discriminates. And what else can you do? This law supported by non-feminist women, non-feminist men, pushed by feminists. It's irrelevant for them to really care if, even if every Western nation only produced 20 feminists in total. Totally irrelevant if anybody wants their label, because they already know that people will support the things that they do, especially women, because people do not willingly give up power. And with that, this was an orator with the freest of speech. Thanks for listening.